Han Jae-won did not look at her when he said it. You ran 10.87 seconds 6 hours before a drunk delivery driver shattered your leg in 3 places. Amaya's breath caught. The driver walked away, he continued calmly. You didn't. Silence stretched across the penthouse. Lake Michigan shimmered behind him like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. How did he know that? He finally turned. And the justice system failed you. 8 months earlier, the last thing Amaya Williams remembered was the green light. She was in the back seat of a rideshare, earbuds in, Kendrick low in her ears, replaying one number in her mind, 10.87. Her coach, Marcus Teal, had looked at the stopwatch that afternoon and said 4 words she had chased her entire life. That's the one, Amy. Olympic trials in 6 weeks. Everything she had lost, everything she had rebuilt, all of it had finally aligned. Then the truck ran the red light. There was no warning, just impact. Metal, folding, glass exploding. Her right leg bending in a direction legs do not bend. She tried to breathe. Air wouldn't come. Someone was screaming. It took her a second to realize it was her. Stay with me. What's your name? Amaya Williams, she gasped. Olympic trials, 6 weeks. The paramedic looked at her leg, then at his partner. That look said everything. She closed her eyes. 3 fractures, fibula, tibia, severe soft tissue damage, 4 hours and 40 minutes in surgery. When she woke up, the ceiling was white and unfamiliar. Her right leg felt like it belonged to someone else. My leg, she whispered. Her Aunt Renee, the woman who raised her since she was 9, gripped her hand. You're going to walk again, the surgeon said carefully. Walk. The word landed like a verdict. With aggressive therapy, you'll regain full mobility for daily life. But competitive sprinting at the level you were performing. Don't, Miss Williams. I said don't. Silence filled the room. The driver, she asked. Was he drunk? A pause. 0.14 blood alcohol. And? He sustained minor injuries. He walked away. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. Something colder than pain settled into her chest. He walked away. She had been running since she was 7. Not for medals, not for applause, because her body demanded it. By 12, unbeatable. By 17, recruited. By 22, called generational. Then the hamstring tear. 8 months gone. She clawed back. New coach, Marcus Teal. 62, Olympic bronze medalist. A man who spoke mostly in stopwatch times. 2 years rebuilding everything. 10.87. 6 hours later. Gone. The months after didn't feel like time. They felt like weather. Marcus called every day. Then less. Then not at all. Her closest friend sent a pink heart emoji. Then silence. Her boyfriend Darius lasted 3 months. You're not here anymore, he said one morning, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He wasn't wrong. She felt like she had died on that street, and nobody had bothered to tell her. The sponsorship money disappeared. Insurance ran out. Therapy stopped mid-recovery. Her bank account dropped to $212. Her storage unit had 4 days before auction. And on a cold Thursday in November, sitting in a coffee shop nursing one tea she couldn't afford to replace, Amaya stared at her cracked phone and understood something terrifying. This is what after looks like. Then she saw the listing. Private household manager, live-in, $19,000 monthly, absolute discretion required. She read it 3 times. The salary was unreal. The word discretion should have scared her. It didn't. Being forgotten scared her more. She applied. The interview building had no name on the door, no receptionist, just silence and marble floors. A man in a perfectly tailored suit met her at the elevator. Miss Williams, I'm Mr. O, who opened a folder. Her folder. You were the 5th fastest woman in America before your accident. Yes. Do you have family in Chicago who monitor your daily whereabouts? No. Close friends? She thought of the pink heart emoji. No. Are you comfortable with confidentiality and irregular requests that may not come with explanations? The old Amaya would have walked out. This Amaya had $212. Yes. He slid an envelope across the desk. 1 week's salary in advance. Pack everything, he said. You will not return to your current residence. She picked up the envelope. What exactly will I be managing? A private household, he said evenly. Mr. Hahn will explain. Monday morning, gray sky, 2 suitcases, everything she owned. The private elevator rose to the 58th floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a penthouse that didn't look lived in. It looked controlled, floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan endless beyond the glass, furniture arranged, like a chessboard. Leave the cases. The voice came from across the room, tall, broad-shouldered, back turned. She did. You were the 5th fastest woman in America, he said calmly. You ran 10.87 hours before a drunk driver destroyed your career. Her pulse kicked hard. He still hadn't turned around. The justice system failed you. Then he did. Sharp features, dark, unreadable eyes, mid-30s, a faint scar along his jaw, ink visible beneath the open collar of his white shirt. I am Han Jae-won. The name felt heavy in the air. I have one rule, he continued. You do not enter the East Wing office. You do not approach it. You do not ask about it. And if I do, she asked before she could stop herself, you will be removed. Not harmed, removed. His gaze held hers without effort. I expect excellence, Miss Williams, he said quietly, even in a different form than you once imagined. Then he turned and walked toward the East Wing. The hallway swallowed him. Amaya stood alone in the center of the penthouse, Lake Michigan stretching endlessly beyond the glass. 8 months ago, she lost her speed. Tonight she stepped into something far more dangerous. What she didn't know, what no one had told her, was that Han Jae-won already knew the name of the man who destroyed her leg, and he had never been the type of man who let injustice sit quietly. The East Wing wasn't the most dangerous part of this house. Not even close. If you want to see what happens when a man like Han decides to rewrite someone else's ending, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is just getting started. The first week, Amaya mapped the penthouse, not with curiosity, with discipline. Athletes don't wander new territory, they measure it. The 58th floor broke into 3 territories. West Wing, hers, a suite larger than any place she'd ever rented. Center, kitchen, dining room, conference space, library. East Wing. 1 unmarked door, his. She did not approach it, not once. Each morning, a single sheet of instructions waited on the kitchen counter, dry cleaning collected, conference room prepared, fresh flowers, living area only, precise, efficient, no wasted words. She followed them exactly. Jae-han was more presence than person that first week. She heard him before she saw him, low, controlled phone calls behind closed doors, the East Wing door opening at strange hours. Footsteps past midnight. He barely slept. When they crossed paths, he nodded. She stepped aside. That was it. It should have felt distant. It didn't, because Amaya had spent her entire life studying patterns, and Jae-han had patterns. By day 4, she noticed the siki, a cloudy rice drink at the back of the fridge. Every morning at exactly 6:28, he poured a small glass, drank it standing at the island. 2 minutes later, coffee. No variation. On Friday, she sourced more from a Korean grocery on Wentworth. She replaced the bottle without mentioning it. Saturday, 6:28. He poured, drank, paused, just half a second longer than usual, then continued scrolling his phone. He said nothing. The following week, fresh bottles arrived with the rest of the household deliveries. She hadn't requested them. He had ensured continuity. That was how they spoke. Attention, not words. The cold came in week 2. Chicago in February wasn't just cold. It was hostile. Her right leg hated it. The bones tightened. The tissue ached. Sharp warnings shot upward when she pivoted wrong. She didn't complain. Thursday morning, a heating pad sat beside her tea. New, unopened, no note. The building staff hadn't been in. Jay was in the East Wing. She stared at it for a long moment, then plugged it in, said nothing. That afternoon she noticed his left shoulder, a subtle tightening during long calls, his hand drifting toward it before stopping. Chronic tension, old injury. She said nothing. That evening she left, Korean herbal patches outside the East Wing door. The next morning 2 were gone. He never mentioned it. She never mentioned it. They were building something. Neither of them named it. 3 weeks in, her body betrayed her. It started at 11:30 p.m. She couldn't sleep. Before she decided to, she was standing in the dark, starting stance, weight forward, muscle memory louder than logic. She held it, 30 seconds. Then she moved. Not running, not yet. Drive phase, controlled mechanics, slower, deliberate. Her right leg protested. She adjusted, took only what it would give. 20 minutes later, she was breathless, tears on her cheeks. She hadn't realized how badly she needed to feel like herself again. She did it the next night, and the next. What she didn't know, at 11:40 that first Tuesday, the security feed in the East Wing rotated to her room. Jay looked up mid-document review and froze. He watched for 11 minutes, not with curiosity, with calculation, with something else he didn't allow himself to name. Then he minimized the screen, but he did not return to his work immediately. Weeks became a month. The distance between them didn't shrink, it refined. He noticed how she moved. Economy of motion, no wasted steps, even with the slight unevenness in her gait. She noticed he needed real food by noon, or his patience thinned. He noticed she anticipated needs before they formed. She noticed he read newspapers in Korean and annotated the margins. He came home early one afternoon and paused in the hallway. She was folding a napkin. Just that. But her hands moved like precision still mattered. "You have good hands," he said before thinking. She looked up slowly. "Thank you." It was the first personal thing he had said to her. He thought about it longer than he should have. Then the blizzard came. By noon, the city vanished. Lake Michigan disappeared behind white. The penthouse lost heat for 2 hours. When it returned, a chill lingered in the high ceilings. Jay emerged from the East Wing in a dark sweater instead of his usual suit. She noticed immediately. He stopped at the kitchen doorway. "What is that?" "Doenjang jjigae," she said, adjusting the flame. "Seemed right for the weather." He moved to the island, sat, without invitation. She placed a bowl in front of him, without being asked. They ate in silence. Outside, the wind battered the glass. Inside, something shifted. "Where did you grow up?" he asked. It was the first personal question in 6 weeks. "Atlanta, until 9, then Chicago with my aunt." "Your parents?" "My mother died when I was 9. Cancer." A beat. "My parents died when I was 14, he said. She looked up. "Fishing accident. Busan." The word hung there. She waited. "Gamchin Village," he added quietly. "Stacked houses on a hillside. I thought the whole world looked like that once." "And then?" she asked. "And then I learned it doesn't. Understood that completely." "I thought everyone ran," she said. "Turns out most people don't wake up wanting to sprint." "Do you miss it?" Every question from him was direct. "Every morning," she answered. "For 3 seconds I forget. Then I remember." He studied her. "My grandfather said grief is evidence of joy," he said. "You cannot grieve what did not matter. She held his gaze. The tension in the room wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was recognition. Two people who had lost something foundational. Two people who rebuilt differently. My aunt kept every race bib, she said quietly. I didn't answer her calls after the accident. Why? I couldn't hear hope yet. He looked at her for a long moment. Is it going to be okay? He asked. I don't know, she said honestly. Ask me in a year. He looked away first. There's more jjigae, he said. I know. She refilled his bowl. Outside, the blizzard pressed against the glass. Inside, neither of them moved to end the evening, and neither of them spoke about what was building between them. What Amaya didn't know, Jay had already begun looking into the delivery driver, not legally, not officially, and the deeper he dug, the more personal it became. If you can feel the shift between them, the quiet language forming, the storm outside and the storm building underneath, stay close. Because the next move Jay makes isn't about business, and it's going to change both of their lives. The call came on a Thursday evening in March. Amaya was mid-routine in her room, the modified sprint mechanics she'd been rebuilding night after night. Her right leg gave a little more range each week, slowly, grudgingly, like a door that had been shut too long and didn't trust light anymore. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She ignored most calls now. She'd gotten good at it. Then she saw the name, Diana Cole. Amaya froze, breathing hard, eyes locked on the cracked screen. Diana wasn't just competition. She was the kind of rival who becomes necessary. The person who drags something out of you you didn't know you had. After the accident, Amaya stopped answering her. The phone buzzed again. She answered. I know, Diana said immediately. Before you say anything, I know you've disappeared, and I'm not calling to give you comfort words. I'm calling because I found something, and your name won't leave my head. Amaya sat on the edge of the bed. Diana, just listen. Her voice had that urgent edge, like she was afraid the moment would slip away if she paused. There's a place in Pilsen. It's called Stride. It opened 4 months ago. It's not physical therapy. It's different. I've done therapy. This isn't therapy, Diana cut in. They're not trying to turn you back into who you were. They're building what comes next. Adaptive technique, performance training, built around the body you have now. People who don't stare at you like you're finished. I don't need group sessions. You need something, Diana said, not unkindly, because whatever you're doing right now, wherever you are, it's not enough for you. I know you. Silence. Amaya's eyes drifted to the photograph on her wall. Her crossing the finish line. Form perfect, face fierce. A picture Jay had left on the counter weeks ago without a word. Amaya had moved it to her room the same day. She stared at it now, feeling the familiar ache rise. When? She asked. Stride sat in a converted warehouse on the edge of Pilsen, but it didn't feel like a warehouse. It felt like someone built it with reverence. Clean brick, huge windows, warm light. Above the entrance, Stride, Athletic Performance and Rehabilitation Center. Underneath, every body has a next chapter. Amaya stood outside longer than she needed to. Then she walked in and stopped, because the inside was real. A short indoor sprint lane with a professional-grade surface and calibrated starting blocks. A full-strength and conditioning section. A rehabilitation studio with equipment she recognized and equipment she didn't. And at the far end, behind glass walls, a group session in motion. Focused, fast, purposeful. Athletes moving like their bodies mattered, like their lives hadn't ended. They'd just changed shape. Amaya Williams. She turned. The man walking toward her was tall and broad-shouldered, warm, dark skin, and a gait that carried a barely noticeable stiffness on the right side, controlled, managed, accepted. Reading glasses were pushed up on his forehead. Samuel Ose, he said, extending his hand. Diana told me you might come. Amaya kept her expression neutral. I'm just looking. Good, he said, like that was the best place to start. Then I'll show you what's here. He didn't sell. He didn't perform. He simply walked her through the space, explaining only when she asked. We don't rebuild the past, he said quietly, as they watched the athletes behind the glass. We build a new architecture around what remains. A woman with a prosthetic leg drove out of the blocks with enough power to steal Amaya's breath. A man with heavy scarring along his torso ran with the kind of focus that looked almost sacred. We don't use the word limitation, Samuel added. We use adaptation. One is something done to you. The other is something you do. Amaya swallowed. What do you need from me? Samuel turned to her. Right now? Nothing. Come back a few times. Let your body remember it belongs to you. She came back the next week, then again. Then she stopped counting. 3 weeks after her first visit, Samuel caught her after an evening session. There's someone I'd like you to work with, he said. One-on-one. Informal. Only if you're open. I'm not a coach. Samuel's eyes held steady. I know what you are. That's why I'm asking. The boy was waiting in the rehab studio. 15, tall, lean, runner's build, left sleeve pinned at the shoulder, the arm gone just below the joint. Ezra looked at Amaya the way young athletes look at adults, like he was measuring whether she'd waste his time. You ran 10.87, he said. Once. Before the accident. Before the accident, she echoed. A beat. And now? He asked. Amaya didn't soften it. Now I'm figuring out what after looks like. Something in his face shifted. Not trust, not yet, but the smallest opening. Me too, he said. They started with mechanics, balance, center of gravity, how the missing left arm changed his rotation, his hips, his stability. Ezra ran a 30-meter acceleration. Amaya watched, then said calmly, Your right arm is overcompensating. Ezra frowned. If I don't, I lose balance. You'll lose balance for 2 weeks, Amaya said. Then your core will learn what it's supposed to do. Your arm is masking a weakness. We build the weakness. Ezra stared like she'd insulted him. Amaya stared back like she had all night. He ran again, tighter right arm. He wobbled at 20 meters and cut off hard. That felt terrible. Again. I almost fell, but you didn't. Again. He ran again and again. By the 6th attempt, something clicked. Amaya saw it before Ezra did. Core engaged, hips leveled, rotation stabilized. The movement stopped fighting. He hit 30 meters clean, then stopped and turned around. His face wore an expression Amaya recognized instantly. The first time something works, after a long time of it, not working. Amaya didn't clap, didn't make it big. She just nodded. There it is, she said. That's your running. Ezra's eyes shone in a way he tried to control. When does it stop feeling like starting over? Hanno, he asked. Amaya answered, honestly. When you stop calling it starting over. A long breath. Did that happen for you? He asked. Amaya thought of the midnight routines in her room, the way her leg was learning new language with the rest of her body. It's happening, she said. Ask me in a year. Jehan noticed the phrase. Ask me in a year. He noticed because he noticed everything about Amaya now, which was a development he hadn't approved and could not reverse. It began as employer awareness. It became something far more inconvenient. He knew what time she left 3 nights a week. He knew the elevator's soft arrival when she returned. He told himself it was security. He reviewed the lie and found it weak. He also knew this. After those nights, she moved through the penthouse differently. Not happy, but less hollow. And Jay found himself waiting for the sound of her return. This had to stop. His world depended on separation. Business here, Personal there, no overlap. So when he told his driver an address in Pilsen, he called it reconnaissance, due diligence, security adjacent. He almost believed it. The car stopped across from Stride at 8:20 p.m. "Wait here," Jay said. He crossed the street and stood near the window where warm light spilled onto the sidewalk. Inside, the session was running. Jay located Amaya in under 30 seconds. She was on the track with Ezra. Jay watched the way she coached, never in front, always beside, keeping the athlete centered, her attention absolute, her body still fluent in performance. Ezra ran, pulled up. Amaya spoke. Ezra ran again, frustrated now. She didn't soften, didn't fold. She stayed steady in that way that meant, "I will not let you quit on yourself." Ezra ran again, and somewhere around the 20-meter mark, Jay saw the shift. The boy's body settled. The mechanics became coherent. Ezra finished, stopped, and turned back. And Amaya smiled. Not her composed professional smile, not her careful politeness. This was unguarded, full, alive. Jay went still on the sidewalk. In his chest, something that had been silent for a very long time made a sound. He recognized it the way you recognize a language you forgot you knew. Then he walked back to the car. He didn't speak the whole drive home. That night, after the penthouse went quiet, Jay sat at his desk in the East Wing and opened his laptop. He pulled up the contact information for Dr. Angela Reeves. He wrote, "Dr. Reeves, I'm contacting you on behalf of a former patient. I would like to discuss realistic long-term rehabilitation parameters and the current prognosis. I am prepared to fund any specialist consultations or treatment programs you believe would be beneficial. Please treat this inquiry with complete discretion." He read the message twice, then sent it, then sat in the stillness of the East Wing for a long time, thinking about a smile he'd seen through glass and what it meant that he'd gone looking for it. The package appeared on the kitchen counter on a Friday morning. A framed photograph, Amaya, running. Not the one she already had. This one was Eugene, 18 months before the accident. 50-meter mark, perfect form. Under the photo, 4 numbers written in black ink, 10.91. Her throat tightened. No note. There was never a note. She carried it to her room and placed it beside the other photograph. 2 frames now, 2 versions of her, 2 reminders of what she had lost and what she might still have. That night at 2 a.m., she ran her routine for 45 minutes. Then she went to the kitchen, drank cold water at the window, and let herself feel something dangerously close to hope. It frightened her more than grief ever did, because hope makes promises, and promises can be shattered. She went back to bed. In the East Wing, the security feed cycled through rooms. Jay closed his laptop without looking. He already knew she was okay. He always knew. Director Lim arrived on a Wednesday morning, in April, with 2 men, and a courtesy that didn't feel polite. It felt measured. Amaya was setting the conference room when the elevator chimed. She heard the voices first, low Korean, controlled, the kind that didn't waste words. She stepped into the hallway with water glasses and caught them crossing the foyer. 3 men, 2 younger ones on the outside, broad, quiet, watchful, and the one in the center, older, compact, silver hair cut close, charcoal suit that sat like authority instead of clothing. He moved through the penthouse as if he was already deciding what belonged to him. As they passed, his eyes flicked once, not to the art, not to the view. To Amaya, a quick assessment, a silent note taken. Then he kept walking. Jay met them at the East Wing entrance. Amaya didn't linger, but she heard the greeting anyway. Respect offered on the surface, tension underneath it. 2 hours later, the elevator took Lim away. Jay stood at the living room window afterward, unmoving. Amaya brought tea, set it beside him, and started to step back. Miss Williams. She stopped. The man who was just here, Jay said, eyes still on the lake. If he comes back without my invitation, if anyone asks you about him, about me, or about this household, you tell me immediately, before anything else. This wasn't routine caution. This was the kind that came after a line had already been crossed. Who is he? She asked. A pause. Someone who believes he's owed something that belongs to me. He lifted the tea. Conversation closed, but the day shifted. 6 phone calls in 3 hours. Security upstairs at 4, and by evening an extra man in the lobby unstationed near the elevator bank, not the entrance. Amaya noticed, filed it, said nothing. 11 days later, the message arrived on the red line. Amaya was coming back from Stride, tired in the good way. Ezra had hit a new personal best and they'd ridden the momentum until the center lights dimmed. The train car wasn't full, but it wasn't empty. She sat by the window, headphones in, watching the city blur. At Shermack, a woman sat beside her. Korean, mid-40s, gray coat, pleasant face. Amaya's body reacted before her mind did. Wrong. Excuse me. Amaya pulled out one earbud. I think I've seen you at the building on Delaware, the woman said. The glass tower. Amaya held her gaze. Maybe. You work there? Both, Amaya said, flat. The woman smiled like this was casual. Private household, she said softly. That must require discretion. I don't discuss my employer. Of course. The woman's smile didn't move. Does he treat you well? Amaya didn't answer. The woman leaned a fraction closer. Sometimes people in private households don't realize when they've stopped being free to leave. The train rolled into the next stop. Amaya stood. I get off here. She didn't get off. She moved into the next car and stood near the doors until her stop. Pulse high, mind sharp. No threat you could quote. No crime you could report. Just a message delivered through a friendly tone. I can reach you. She told Jay that night, word for word. The stop, the coat, the building on Delaware, the carefully placed lines. Jay listened without expression. When she finished, he typed a message. A reply came back fast. He typed again. Put the phone away. A car will collect you from Stride tomorrow, he said. And going forward. That's not necessary. It is. Jake, it is necessary, he repeated. Control tightened into something hard. This is not a discussion. Everything between us is a discussion, Amaya said. That's how we've done this from the beginning. He looked at her. For a moment she saw what lived under his composure. Not fear for himself. Fear of what could happen to someone else. Go to sleep, he said. I'll explain in the morning. He went into the east wing and shut the door. Amaya stared at it long after the click. Morning came. So did a driver, broad-shouldered, Korean, minimal English. Mr. Han, he said. Car, for you. Amaya looked at the man, then the car, then the building, and went back upstairs. Jay was at the kitchen island, laptop open. Amaya set her bag down hard. No, she said. He didn't flinch. Good morning. No driver. No security decisions about my life without a conversation. She kept her voice even. I'm not asking you for every detail, but I will not be managed. Jay closed the laptop slowly. Sit down. I'll stand. A flicker crossed his face, not irritation. Respect. The woman on the train works for LIM, he said. LIM represents a federation in Seoul. They absorb independent operations under centralized control. And you refused. For 8 months. What do you do? Amaya asked. Say it plainly. Jay held her gaze. Are you sure you want that? If your people are touching my life, yes. A beat. Sit down, Amaya. She sat. Jay sat across from her, forearms on the counter, hands loosely linked. No distance, no desk, just the truth between them. Gambling, he said. Protection arrangements. Money movement through legitimate businesses. Amaya's stomach tightened. Illegal. Some of it, Jay said evenly. I don't deal in trafficking. I don't sell substances. His eyes didn't move. And I don't use violence as a first response. Lim does. Jay's jaw tightened. Lim wants what I built. He doesn't want to buy it. He wants to absorb it. And now he's warning you through me. He's proving he can reach things close to me, Jay said. Things close to me. The words stayed in the air after he spoke them. Amaya swallowed, hating how much she understood. Why not walk away, she asked. You can, because I built this. A pause, smaller. And because I have a plan for what it becomes. What does it become? Jay's voice lowered. Something I'd be less ashamed of. The argument came 3 days later. Jay said her stride schedule should drop to 1 session per week. Amaya's face went still. No. It's temporary. No, she repeated. You don't get to decide that. Amaya, those students count on consistency, she cut in. Ezra counts on it. I won't become another person who disappears. Jay's voice stayed calm, which made it sharper. I understand what it means to be used as leverage, he said. I understand what Lim does when pressure fails. You're not equipped to assess that risk. And you're not equipped to assess what it costs me, Amaya snapped, stepping closer. Stride is mine, the first thing I've built back that belongs to me. I'm not taking it, Jay said. I'm trying to keep you alive. The sentence landed harder than anything else he'd said. Amaya held his eyes. Then work with me. Don't cage me. A long beat. 2 sessions, Jay said. Jean inside the building during each one. You vary days and times. No pattern. And you tell me if the threat changes, Amaya said. Immediately. Agreed. Say it like you mean it. Jay's mouth moved like he almost didn't know how to give her softness without losing control. 2 sessions, he said again. Jean inside. You vary the schedule. I keep you informed. A beat. I mean it. Amaya nodded once. She turned to leave. Amaya. She stopped. The fact that you fought for it, Jay said, careful. Your students. His voice tightened. It's not small. Amaya didn't turn around. No, she said. It isn't. On Tuesday, Mr. O was hospitalized. Jay came into the kitchen and didn't touch the sikya, didn't open the newspaper, stood at the window with his phone in his hand and his jaw set like something had happened that couldn't be undone. Amaya made tea, left it, didn't ask. At 4, a text came. O is in hospital. Amaya stared at it, typed, how serious? 3 minutes later, serious, stable. She set the phone down. Then she cooked something that took time, because helplessness needed somewhere to go. Jay didn't come out for 3 days. Food trays left outside the east wing door, empty by morning. Footsteps once, at 2 a.m. On the 3rd night, Amaya left the tray, then sat on the floor beside the door, back against the wall, legs extended, hands quiet. And she spoke into the hallway like she wasn't asking permission. The first race I ever lost, I was 8, she said softly. A girl named Tamika beat me by half a step. I cried for an hour. A pause. My aunt told me I'd just found out what I care about. Most people never get that gift. She looked at the closed door. Later, losing stopped being half a step. She continued. It became injury. A year. A life rearranged. Her voice stayed steady. That's when you learn you don't love winning. You love the thing itself, the coming back. Silence. Mr. O brought me here, she said, and he's going to be okay. A breath. And you're going to figure out what comes next. You always do. She stayed a minute longer, then went to bed. At 6:15 the next morning, the east wing door opened. Footsteps. Refrigerator. Sikye bottle. At 6:30, Amaya came into the kitchen. Jay looked like he hadn't slept, but he was present again. He met her eyes. "I heard you," he said. "I know," Amaya replied, turning on the stove. "What your aunt said." A pause. "About what you care about." "Yes." Jay's voice lowered. "Mr. O has been with me 11 years. He was the first person I trusted in this country." "And he's going to be okay," Amaya said. Jay nodded once. "Yes." Amaya cooked. Jay watched. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for the food, for the hallway." "You would have done the same," she said. Jay answered after a beat. "Yes, I would have." Friday evening, Jay received a message from an unknown number. He opened it. A photograph. Amaya outside Stride. Timestamp 9:47 p.m. Streetlight catching her face clearly. Jean's car visible. Below it, Korean text. He read it twice. "She still runs in her sleep. Doesn't she know how easy it is to stop someone mid-stride?" Jay set the phone down with deliberate precision. He sat still for 30 seconds. Then he opened the safe behind the bookshelf, checked what was inside, and closed it. One call, 45 seconds. Jay spoke 11 words in Korean. The voice on the other end replied with 3. The call ended. Jay walked to the west wing and knocked on Amaya's door. She opened it, surprise shifting into alert at the look on his face. "What happened?" "Pack what matters," Jay said, voice steady but strained. "Documents, clothes, anything irreplaceable." "One bag." Amaya stared. "Jay, 1 hour," he said, eyes fixed on hers. "Please." Amaya nodded once. She packed in 40 minutes. They drove north for 2 hours. Jean took the wheel. Jay sat in the front passenger seat making calls in low Korean, voice controlled, paced like he was stacking decisions into place one by one. Amaya sat in the back with one bag beside her. Chicago thinned behind them, lights fading into smaller towns, then long stretches of road with nothing but the dark and the occasional farmhouse window burning like a lone thought. She didn't ask where they were going, not because she didn't want to know, because Jay had said 1 hour, and then he had looked at her like asking questions would waste seconds they didn't have. Past midnight, Jean left the highway for a narrower road winding through dense pine. Motion lights snapped on in sequence along a private drive. Cold air rushed in when the car slowed, carrying pine and water. Somewhere below, waves moved, steady, unseen. A house rose out of the dark, wood and glass, sharp lines, 3 stories built into a bluff. Not a rental, not a hotel, a place that had been waiting. Jay took her bag before she could protest. "2nd floor," he said. "3rd door on the right. Everything you need is there." "We need to talk," Amaya replied. "Tomorrow," he said, as if he were stating the weather. "Tonight you sleep." She went upstairs. The room was large and spare, a wall of windows facing the lake, still mostly darkness, only a faint silver sheen moving far below. The bed was made. The bathroom was stocked. On the nightstand, water and 2 pills, the exact medication Dr. Reeves had prescribed for cold weather flare pain. Amaya stared at them, not because she doubted what they were, because she hadn't told him when she needed them. She took the pills anyway, shut off the light, and lay in the dark, listening to the lake. Sleep came faster than she expected. Morning arrived the way it only does near water. Light filled the room, pale gold shifting slightly, as if it was moving with the lake. Amaya sat up, and memory snapped into place. The photo, the message. Jay at her door. 1 hour. She crossed to the window. Lake Geneva spread wide and blue-gray, the far shore lined in trees like a clean horizon. No other buildings visible. Whoever chose this place didn't choose it for convenience. They chose it for distance. Amaya dressed and went downstairs. Jay was in the kitchen. Dark jeans, navy sweater. Coffee already strong in the air, 2 cups on the counter, a pan warming. He turned when he heard her. "Did you sleep?" Better than I expected, she said. You? Enough. He gestured to the counter. Sit. She moved toward the stove. I can... Sit down, Amaya. Clear, not impatient. You're not here as my housekeeper. She sat. Jay cooked eggs with the same discipline he applied to everything. Simple, correct, precise. He set a plate in front of her and sat across the island. His phone was face down. He didn't touch it. That alone told her something. She ate. He drank coffee. Outside, the lake moved like it had all the time in the world. How long have you had this place? She asked. 7 years, Jay said. First property I bought that wasn't tied to business. How often do you come? 4 times, when I need distance from the city. He looked out the window, then back at her. I owe you an explanation, he said. You already gave me one. I gave you an outline, Jay replied. Last night wasn't an outline situation. He paused, then started, cleanly, in parts, like he needed the facts to stay steady so his voice could. Lim has been pushing for 8 months, he said. Not for partnership, for absorption. Amaya watched his face as he spoke. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't trying to intimidate her. He was trying to be accurate. He pressured 3 of my partners into withdrawing, Jay continued, threatened a license through a city official who owes favors, approached 2 security people with offers designed to create doubt. And Mr. O? Amaya said. Jay's jaw tightened a fraction. They chose him on purpose, Jay said evenly. Everyone who understands my operation understands what he means to it. Hurting him was a message. Amaya set down her fork. What comes next? She asked. They move closer, Jay said. They already reached my building, my staff. A pause, small, controlled. People connected to me. Amaya understood why he'd dragged her out of Chicago. The next step, Jay said, would be direct, something that can't be dismissed as a street incident. Amaya held his gaze. And you're handling it. Yes. Is it enough? Jay was quiet for a moment, then answered like he'd already asked himself the same question 100 times. My people are compiling financial records, he said. Transactions that tie Lim's operation to legitimate partners in Seoul, men who protect their reputations like oxygen. He leaned back slightly. When they see what his aggression risks, exposure, scandal, attention, they'll recall him. How long? Amaya asked. Days, Jay said. Maybe a week. Amaya let the sentence settle, then said the thing she needed to say plainly. I don't want anyone killed. Jay's eyes stayed on hers. I know. I mean it. I know you mean it, Jay said, voice still controlled. And I prefer not to, for reasons that have nothing to do with sentiment. Violence creates investigation. Investigation creates attention. Attention spreads. He didn't dress it up. Then he added just as plainly, but I won't lie to you and say harder options don't exist. Amaya stared at him for a long moment, then nodded once. Thank you, she said quietly, for telling me the truth. Something eased in his expression, brief, almost reluctant. You make truth easier than most people do, Jay said. The days at the lake settled into a rhythm, neither of them planned. Jay worked mornings at the long table facing the water, calls in Korean, messages reviewed, decisions made. Distance didn't pause business. But there was no east wing here, no door to shut, no corridor to retreat into. The house was just a house, and the air between them didn't have a place to hide. Amaya ran each morning, not sprinting, not yet. A path circled the bluff above the lake, firm ground, manageable grade. The first morning she ran it slow and uneven, her leg complaining about cold and incline, forcing her to walk the last stretch. She stopped at the edge of the bluff, hands on her hips, breath loud, eyes on water that didn't care how hard this was. The second morning, she walked less. The third, She came back to find Jay on the deck with 2 cups of coffee. He held one out without a word. She took it. They stood side by side facing the lake, both breathing cold pine air, both letting silence do what talking couldn't. After a long moment, Jay spoke. "You're running every morning." "Trying to," Amaya said. "How does it feel?" Amaya thought about it honestly. "Like a conversation I used to speak fluently," she said. "Now I'm relearning it in a new dialect." Jay's gaze stayed on the water. "My grandfather said the sea is the same every morning," he said, "and completely different every morning." Amaya nodded. "Same body, different body." "Yes," Jay said softly. Amaya glanced at him. 2 days away from Chicago had changed him, not into someone else, but into a man who wasn't spending every second bracing for impact. "Tell me something about yourself that nobody knows," she said. Jay turned his head slightly. "That's a significant request." "I know." A pause. "When I was 12, Jay said, "I designed buildings." He said it like it belonged to a different life. "I built models, towers, bridges, houses into cliffsides." Amaya's eyebrows rose. "You?" Jay gave the smallest, almost unwilling shift of expression. "Yes." "And when you saw Chicago?" "I had my driver stop," Jay said. "He thought something was wrong." "Something was right," Amaya said. Jay looked at her. "You found that part of you again," she said, "the part before everything." The silence that followed was careful, like neither of them wanted to step on it. "Your turn," Jay said. Amaya stared out at the water. "The night of the accident," she said quietly, "my first thought wasn't pain. It wasn't survival." She swallowed once. "It was the trials," she said. "I'd calculated that if I ran 10.83, I'd make the team." She kept her eyes on the lake because looking at him would make it harder to say. "I was 400ths away," she said, "and I'll never know if I had it." Jay didn't interrupt. He didn't soften it with comfort. He just let it be true. "There's nothing wrong about that," he said finally. "When you build your whole life toward one thing, that thing becomes your language." Amaya breathed out slowly. On the 3rd evening they cooked together, not as a plan, as something that happened because they were in the same space, reaching for the same pan, moving around each other without the old distance. After dinner, they sat in the living room, fire low, wine on the table, the lake invisible behind black windows, audible below like a steady heartbeat against rock. Amaya watched the fire. Jay watched it too. "You measure every word," Amaya said, "like you're careful what you send into the world." Jay's gaze stayed on the flames. "I learned to be economical," he said. "Words were weapons where I came from." "And now?" Amaya asked. Jay turned his head slightly. "Now I'm learning that economy and honesty aren't the same thing," he said, "with some people." The fire shifted, light moving across his face. Amaya spoke quietly. "I talked to you through a door." "I know. Did it help?" Jay met her eyes. "Yes," he said. "It helped." He paused, then said something she didn't expect him to say at all. "I've been making changes," Jay said. "For 8 months." Amaya's attention sharpened. 8 months. "Yes." "That's when Lim started pushing." "Yes. And that's when I started rebuilding," Amaya said. Jay didn't deny the connection. He didn't hide behind distance. He said it plainly. "Proximity to someone doing something honest," he said, "can make the rest of your life feel harder to defend." Amaya set down her glass carefully. "You're saying watching me rebuild changed you." "I'm saying it removed excuses," Jay replied, "without you asking." A long pause. "What direction are you going now?" Amaya asked. Jay's face was very still, and when he answered, it sounded like a decision that had already been made. "Towards something I can live with," he said. He reached for her hand. Not hurried, not performative, just present. Amaya let him. The moment held, quiet, steady, neither of them pretending it was smaller than it was. Jay's phone rang at 11:40 p.m. He answered in the kitchen. Korean, immediately. Short responses, 2 longer statements, then a final exchange that ended cleanly. He came back to the living room and stood for a moment before speaking, as if he wanted to be certain he was telling her the truth and not the hope of it. The records were delivered to the sole partners this afternoon, he said. The ones that implicate the men who protect their reputations. Amaya's chest tightened. And? Lim has been recalled. Said. Effective immediately. The Federation is calling his actions unacceptable exposure. Amaya held his eyes. So it's over. This part, Jay said. He sat beside her. There's always another part, he added quietly. That is the nature of my world. He looked at her then, direct, unhidden. But the threat to you is resolved. Amaya stared at the fire as it burned lower. We can go home, she said. Tomorrow, Jay replied. If you want. Amaya's voice came out steady. I don't want to go back to pretending, she said, to notes and distance and acting like I don't notice you. Jay's face shifted with something like relief and unease at the same time. I don't know how to do this, he said. Not an excuse. A fact. Neither do I, Amaya said. But I know what it feels like when someone actually sees me. Jay's hand tightened around hers, gentle and sure. I see you, he said. I have from the beginning. That was always the problem, Amaya breathed out. Then we figure it out, she said. Together. Jay looked down at their hands like the word had weight. Together, he repeated softly. Outside, the lake continued its steady conversation with the rocks below, constant, changing, patient. Inside, the fire sank toward embers. Neither of them moved to rebuild it. The warmth was already there. They drove back to Chicago on a Thursday morning. The skyline appeared the way it always did from the north, slowly at first, then all at once, rising out of the flat land like something inevitable. Amaya watched it from the back seat. Jay sat beside her this time. Jean drove in silence. Jay's phone rested in his hand, but he wasn't looking at it. He was looking ahead, calm and alert, like a man returning to something he had chosen rather than something that owned him. His hand rested between them on the seat. Amaya placed hers beside it. Their fingers linked. No discussion. No hesitation. They stayed that way until the car slipped into the city. The penthouse looked exactly the same. Security had swept it. The air smelled clean. Fresh flowers stood near the entry. Everything was in its proper place. And yet, when Amaya stepped into the living room, she felt it instantly. The space had shifted, not physically, but the old distance, employer here, employee there, had dissolved. She wasn't standing in her boss's home anymore. She was standing in a space she inhabited. Jay watched her take it in. What are you thinking? He asked. That it feels different, she said. He nodded once. Yes, he said. It does. The first week back was quiet and steady. Amaya continued managing the household because she wanted to, not because she had to. She liked the order of it, the rhythm, the mornings that began with intention. But she moved differently now, present, visible. Jay changed too, not in speeches, in small things. He lingered at the kitchen counter. He spoke without wrapping everything in distance. He came into rooms without inventing reasons to be there. He told her things, small memories, stray thoughts, details from meetings that mattered to him. He was learning how to give pieces of himself without guarding them, and she was learning how to hold them. 8 days after their return, Jay walked into the kitchen at 9 in the morning. Come with me, he said. No explanation. Amaya put down her coffee and followed. He didn't take her to the east wing. He took her to the elevator and pressed a lower level she had never seen before. The doors opened to a clean concrete corridor. Bright, quiet. At the end stood double doors. Jay stopped. "Close your eyes." She hesitated, then did. The doors opened. The air changed. And beneath her feet, the ground felt different. She knew that surface. "Open them," he said. Amaya opened her eyes. A professional indoor sprint lane stretched in front of her. 60 meters. Dark calibrated surface. Clean lane markings. Starting blocks set at the near end. A timing system mounted on the far wall. Mirrors running the length of one side. It wasn't decorative. It was precise. It was real. Her throat tightened. Jay stood a few feet away, watching her carefully. "I cleared the sublevel," he said. 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. Before Lake Geneva. Before the kiss. Before either of them said anything out loud. "You built this," she said softly. "Yes." "Why?" Jay met her eyes. "Because the world doesn't get to decide what you're allowed to become." That was all. No long explanation. No business logic. Just that. Amaya walked toward the starting block slowly, like she was approaching something sacred. She crouched beside them, ran her fingers over the plate, the adjustment settings, the angles. Everything was exact. She stood and faced him. "This is the most extraordinary thing anyone has ever done for me." Jay opened his mouth to explain it away. She shook her head. "Don't," she said gently. "Let it be what it is." He held her gaze. Then he nodded. "It's what it is," he said quietly. She crossed the distance between them and wrapped her arms around him. He went still for half a second, surprised by the softness, then held her fully, completely. "Can I run?" she asked against his shoulder. "That," he said, "is the point." She walked the lane first, then jogged, then ran. The surface met her foot the way it used to, not perfectly, not painlessly, but honestly. She returned to the starting blocks, lowered into position, hands behind the line, weight forward, energy coiled. 18 months since she had been here. Her body still remembered. She drove out of the blocks. The first 20 meters were uneven. Then around 25, something aligned. Flow. It lasted seconds, but it was real. She pulled up at 50 meters, breathing hard. The timing system chirped. She looked at the display, then looked again. Jay was already walking toward her. "You see it?" she asked. "I do. That's not supposed to be possible." "It is," he said, "because you're here." She pressed her hands over her mouth. Tears came, not dramatic, not loud, just steady and unashamed. 400ths, she whispered. "I remember," he said. "I don't know if I ever had them," she said, "but I don't think that matters anymore." Jay waited. "I ran," she said, "and I felt it." He nodded. "It was waiting," he said. "You just needed the right ground." She looked at him. "And you built it." He didn't deny it. He just stood there with her. 3 weeks later, Samuel called. "Someone funded a 3-year endowment for Stride," he said. "Completely secure. Expansion possible. Youth program guaranteed." Amaya sat down. "The foundation is named after your family," Samuel continued. "The paperwork says it. Honors a fisherman who believed the point of building something is what grows inside it." Amaya closed her eyes. "Who is he?" Samuel asked quietly. "Someone," she said, "who finally learned what's worth building." Samuel exhaled. "Tell him it's real," he said. "What we're doing here is real." "I will," she promised. That night she told Jay. He listened, said very little. When she finished, he only said, "Good." She stared at him. "That's it?" He almost smiled. "My grandfather would have said the amount was excessive," he said, "but he would have approved of the purpose." She leaned against him. His arm came around her naturally. "He taught you well," she said. He did, Jay replied. And you remembered. He didn't answer that. He didn't need to. Ezra ran his first competitive race in May. Small meet, no cameras, just 12 athletes in a clear morning. Amaya stood at the finish line. Jay stood 3 steps behind her. Set. The gun fired. Ezra drove. At 40 meters it happened. That moment when his body stopped fighting itself. He finished 3rd. The time flashed. His mother cried. Ezra ran straight to Amaya. Did you see it? He demanded. I felt it. I saw it, she said. All of it. It feels like mine, he said. That's exactly right. He glanced at Jay. Who's he? Someone important, Amaya said. Is he your... Yes. Jay said nothing, but his hand settled at her back like he intended to keep it there. When Ezra jogged away for the relay, Jay looked at her. You didn't pause, he said. I didn't need to, she replied. Did I get it wrong? No, he said. She took his hand. Beautiful words come back when you send them out beautifully, she said softly. He stilled. You remembered. You said it was more valuable than money. Jay looked at her. I love you, he said plainly. No performance, no hesitation, just truth. I love you too, she answered, just as plainly. They stood there, watching Ezra line up for the relay. The baton passed clean. The morning widened. For the first time in a long time, Amaya didn't feel like she was racing against something she had lost. She felt like she was running towards something she had chosen. Jay's hand tightened in hers. Ready? He asked. Not yet, she said. Let's watch. So they watched. If this story moved you, if the track reveal, the 3rd place finish, or the quiet I love you moment hit home, tell me which scene stayed with you, and if you want more stories where strength, love, and second chances collide like this, stay close. The next one is already waiting.